Hi guys, Pete here, N6QW, and feast your eyes on a World Radio Laboratories Dual Bander 84, a DB84 single sideband transceiver that came out in the 60s. I guess this sort of preempted the Galaxy 3 and the Galaxy 5. This was intended either a home station or mobile rig. It's got a pretty rudimentary circuit in it. It's a two-band rig, 80/40, with a really small amount of controls. Essentially, you have a mic gain right here. You have a null function, and the importance of that null function is to null out the carrier, but it's also used for tune-up, because if you unbalance the carrier, then you'll get enough RF coming out that you can tune the antenna and tune up the final. Here is a one single capacitor. It's got a fixed tuned output on the loading capacitor, and then the plate tuning capacitor is just a single control here, so it's fixed. So that 50 watts, at 50 ohms, you get the maximum output. They've fixed the fixed pi network. That was kind of common, and it got a little detector circuit in there. And you got a little sensitivity controls, how much this meter swings when you put it in tune. The band switch here is a push-pull band switch, and you push it, and there's a whole series of gang slide switches that are mounted on the chassis, and they're ganged in a way that they've got they capture the slide on a shaft. So by pulling the shaft out, you switch all the switches to 75 meters, and when you push it in, puts everything on 40 meters. They've got a really unusual circuit in here that uses the 12BY7. A 12BY7, if you look at any rigs of the vintage 1960s, was always used as a driver tube for either, like in the Yaesu, was 6 JSC6s, or if you had some of the early Swan gear, it was used as a driver for 6DQ5. You see them, I think there's some of them, there's in the national radios, some of them do. Helicopters use a 6DK6 or something like that. But Heathkit, all the Heathkit single banders used a 12BY7. So quite a common tube, and as a matter of fact, though, some of the Japanese rigs, the Yaesu rigs, not any 12BY7 could be put in there. You had to get a special one, and it had like an S2001 or something like that. But it was a very common tube. But what they do is in this circuit here with the dual bander 84 is it's the receiver RF amplifier, and then it's the transmit driver stage, which is kind of interesting. So it gets to use dual duty. They use a 5.2 megahertz, something 5.2, I think is the frequency of the crystal filter, and then they use a 1.6 megahertz, a nominal 1.6 megahertz VFO, low frequency VFO, and the idea here is, if you take 5.2 plus 1.6, you get 7 megahertz. And, well, actually, it's like maybe 1.7 or something like that, gets you at 7 megahertz. And then, if you subtract it, it goes the other way, puts you down into the 40 meter band. 35 meter band. So the add is 40 meters, the subtract is put you on 75. The interesting thing about this, only covers 200 kilohertz, so it covers from 3.8 to 4.0, and then 7.1 to 7.3. And the rationale behind this was back in 1960s, that was kind of the extent of the phone band operation for each of those bands, and it wasn't until later that the bands got expanded. As a built-in speaker, and I literally rebuilt this. I replaced literally all the capacitors, most of the resistors, the ones that I could get to, and even with that, it's kind of marginal operation. But I've made a few contacts on 40 meters. Oh, a little sleepy here. The thing that's interesting is running the VFO down at 1.6 megahertz, and that was kind of common for Heathkit, did that as well on the single banders. And the idea there is that you have a very stable VFO, so the issues of drift as you would have with a higher frequency VFO is not as great, because it's just such a low frequency that the drift is not noticeable. It's got a pair of 6 HF5s in this, and the thing is interesting, this thing can do a couple of 100 watts, although I'm running it off a Heathkit supply here, HP23, and the thing also fascinating about this radio is the screen voltage is 400 volts. Screen voltage is 400 volts, and I don't know why they picked such a high value, but it is. Now the Heathkit I have has got a switchable low voltage. It's either like 275 or 350, so we don't quite get the 400 volt mark, but we get close enough that with a pair of 6 HF5s driven by a 12BY7, that you can get close to 100 watts out of this thing, which is probably okay for 75 or 40. It has a jack on the back that you can key a linear amplifier, so if you really wanted more power, an SB200 will get you 500-600 watts pretty easily. So this is the Duerbander 84. Again, mic gain, audio gain. Audio gain is also off and on switch. The null, you unbalance the carrier. Actually, there's two carrier balance controls. There's one on the board inside, and then there's this panel mounted one, and so you try to work between the two so that you can get enough signal out to give you enough RF out so that you can tune the thing, and that it'll hold. I've had a few contacts with this, and generally the signals are pretty complementary, but I would suspect it's probably working okay on 75 and 40 meters. But not too sure what this thing would do on 20 meters or something like that. So I've got a built-in speaker. The speaker I had in there was kind of crap. Matter of fact, I got a punctured voice coil and cone, the speaker cone. Coil was okay, the cone, so I replaced it with a replacement, and I had to make an adapter. And it's not, it's the right ohmage, but it's not exactly the right size. So that'll be something I want to try to find. I actually have a second one of these, and I bought a second one here right before Christmas, and I got it for like $45. So I may, since this one is operational, the case is pretty bad. The other one, they've mounted it in an LMB cabinet. It's a cabinet that kind of looks like the what's used for the KWM2 and the 30S1 or the 3075S3B or 32S1, 32S3. It was kind of an LMB knockoff. So someone went to a lot of work to mount that radio inside of there, and I'm going to see about working on that one too, and see if that one's maybe in a little better shape. If not, I have just a bunch of spare parts for this. So this is Pete, N6QW. We're looking at a World Radio Laboratories, Leo Meyerson, and the Duerbander 84. And I could kick myself because when I lived in Missouri, I went to a swap meet at I think down in Washington, Missouri, or Union, Missouri, somewhere down there, a little south of St. Louis. And there was one almost new in the box, and the guy just wanted to get rid of it. He said, gee, it doesn't have the higher bands on it. And he said, give me a $20 bill in yours. And I said, what am I going to do with that thing? So I kind of regret that I didn't spend the $20 because it would have been a pretty nice radio for just $20. Anyway, that's the World Radio Laboratories Duerbander 84. This is Pete, N6QW, as we continue on our quest of radios from the past.